Welcome to episode 105. And a huge part of growing a business is actually the ability to adapt to technological change. And we are seeing a huge increase in integration of AI and digital tools in businesses, and how to understand these technologies and adopt them into our businesses without actually overwhelming our existing operations and people can be quite tricky, but quite crucial to be a thriving, successful business as these tools continue to proliferate. So today I'm joined by Janey Treleaven. And Janey is the founder of Intelligence Assist. And after 20 years working in technology for some of Australia's biggest banks, Janey created Intelligence Assist to help businesses to adopt AI effectively, efficiently, and safely. So welcome, Janey.
Thank you, Karen. I'm really pleased to be joining you today.
Oh, I'm so excited because it's such a huge topic. So I'm going to try and keep to just some key areas. I know otherwise we could easily talk for hours, but I'd love to start with just how you got started in AI, and also what are you seeing at the moment with small to medium sized businesses?
Cool. So I was really lucky in the last sort of couple of years that I was at the Commonwealth Bank. I got to play a little bit with machine learning. We were trying to figure out a way to do timesheets that was just less admin orientated. Okay, now we didn't manage to solve it back then, but that was sort of the first time I saw what conversational natural language AI had the potential to do.
Yeah.
And so I sort of kept an eye on it, and it was really like everybody else in 2023 when, ChatGPT, the first app came out, and that was the first time it really started to be more accessible for businesses, for everybody. And I started thinking then, hey, what are the potentials for small, medium businesses? I was working for a not-for-profit at the time, and I was finding that I was able to get so much more done with the limited volunteering I had around me. And so I had to do more myself. And then it was actually just one day when I was walking a dog that I was asked the question, what would you do if you had an AI startup? And I thought to myself, well, what would my parents have needed in their business? So my parents had a small business. It was a clothing import and manufacture under license business. They never really had more than a few retail stores and about 20 staff. And I'd seen them in their 20 years of business. I'd seen them go through, lots of those tech shifts.
Yeah.
The internet came along, they got an e-commerce site. I even remember my mum having to learn how to use a mouse for the attaché accounting software. And I was like, well, who would I have trusted them with? Not just what they needed, but who would I trust their business with? And I realized that there wasn't anybody out there doing that. And so that was my answer. In the spur of the moment, I sort of said, I'd love to help small businesses, small, medium-sized businesses adopt AI, and I want to be trusted. I want to be tool agnostic because there are so many AI tools out there, and there's a lot of confusion and there's a lot of misconception. And so I wanted to be that trusted name, somebody that small businesses could come to and go, hey, help me get through this, help me figure this out.
Yeah. And because there's every day there seems to be a new tool platform, right? It's just moving so quickly. And I know as a small business owner, I think I've got a pretty good handle on stuff, but I still feel overwhelmed with the amount that's out there and how you choose the right tool for your business as well.
Exactly, because there's not one answer. As much as some of the big players like OpenAI, Microsoft, and Google would like you just to choose their tool and then think you're done with it, you're not. It's so different than other tech shifts like the internet. They added something to your business. AI has the potential to change the way you do everything. So it's going to appear in all the systems that you already use and subscribe to. But there is so much more to it than that. So it can end up feeling overwhelming and also can feel expensive. Yeah. And people already have a lot of subscription fatigue. And so one of the things that we really try to do at Intelligence Assist is help people find the right augmentation opportunities, not just go, oh, no, you need to be using this or that. one thing I tell people is you've already invested in a lot of stuff. Let's make the most of that.
Yeah.
You don't need to add anything or massively change how you're currently working. It's about that augmentation.
Yeah, such a good point. And I think that takes me to, this podcast is all around, people and culture. And one of the things that we've spoken about is the need for training for team members when it comes to AI, because it's not just something that, Microsoft sends you the email and says, hey, we do this now. You've still got to learn how to do it. And it is different to other tech, isn't it? Can you explain a bit more about that for those listening?
Absolutely. So the training, or we call it AI literacy, is really important. A lot of business owners or general managers, CEOs, they think that they can pay for the tool and turn it on, and everybody suddenly comes in one day and they've got Copilot enabled. And that's a big financial investment from a
Yeah.
business, because it's over $500 a year extra. That's a big hit per staff member
Yeah.
to a business's P&L. So but they have to also provide that education, that training around it. And sometimes I actually explain it to people as learning how to prompt is actually about unlearning how to search speak. Okay.
Mm.
When you're typing into a traditional search engine like Google or Bing, you've got to be really almost staccato with your words, right? You're
Yeah.
picking the words that you want it to match. We actually have to unlearn that now to learn how to actually naturally speak with the AI tooling. And so if we don't help people go through that transition by providing them with that kind of support, and prompt libraries for the beginning are really good so people can understand and see lots of examples, but teaching people actually how to prompt, how to ask the right questions in order to get the right answers. And I use a lot of AI to human type analogies when I'm doing my training courses for people, because I want everybody to think of the AI as almost human like. And also as an intern who actually hasn't had a lot of training yet. Very smart, very trained up, but more generalistic. And if you were to ask an intern to write a piece of work for you, to write a document or create a table, do some analysis, you wouldn't just let them go for it, would you? You would give them a lot of context, a lot of information. We need to see AI tools as the interns, where they've got great training behind them, a lot of knowledge, and they're also the ultimate people pleaser. Right? They want to provide you with something. So if you don't give them enough information, they're not going to give you the answer that you want, but they're going to give you an answer because they really want
I need to.
please you. They need to. It's their job. And so that's where learning how to prompt isn't just the writing the question. It's about layering in the context that the AI needs to give you the answer that you want, and enough information so that it is accurate as well, because otherwise it will make stuff up to fill in the gaps. And so that AI literacy isn't just the typing of the prompt, it is all of that layering of context and giving it that information. And so organizations aren't getting the results that they're expecting because they're turning the tools on and they're paying for it. But unless they actually train their staff on how to use it, because it's new for everybody, they're really not going to be able to make the most of it.
Yeah, no, I was reflecting as you were talking on, when the internet was new before Google, and we had Ask Jeeves, and and Yahoo, and and at the time, because there was no such thing as a search engine, so we did put conversations in, and we did type the whole thing, and then we learned to not do that, and like you said, put those keywords in. So we're kind of going back in time almost,
Yeah.
having to have conversations again. And that's what I find that most people struggle with, let alone the fear of AI, which we'll get to, but it's just also that idea that, well, I just want this quick response. And actually you need to have a conversation, don't you? You've got to actually take a little bit of time to get a better answer.
You do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my favorite, so just very quickly, my favorite prompt approach is to use the ask method. So 3 things. It's very easy to remember. It's only 3. Ask: A, for action. What action do you want it to take? S for style. What style do you want that response to be in? So I want you to write something as the action, the email is the style, and then K for knowledge. Layer in all of the knowledge. Almost just write the email, but write it quickly,
Yeah.
right? Make sure all the information you want is in the prompt. Otherwise, when it returns, it'll fill in some of those gaps.
Yeah. I think, like you said, keeping that in mind in terms of if this was an intern, what would I give them? So, which does take us to, the fear, I guess, around AI. And, people can hear the whole idea of prompting and think, oh, geez, I just don't want to learn something else. But there's also, things in the media around, copyright issues, the risks around, thinking that we're doing the right thing. And I've heard you say that it's actually about understanding where AI's boundaries are and what it can do and can't do. So, how do you see governance and controls, which I know all small, medium-sized businesses hate those words, but how do you see that actually working to enable businesses to get their people to use AI more effectively rather than fearing what it might do?
Yeah. So the fears are real that people have, and I totally understand them, but also the potential it has kind of outweighs a lot of that fear and risk. And so it's all about balance. You've got to balance the education we just talked about with the value that it's going to add and the right controls. And I believe and have seen that if you actually tell people where the boundaries are, they'll feel more comfortable using it. People generally want to do the right thing. So, yes, as much as people don't like policies and governance and things, they think it's going to slow them down. Actually, a lot of the time, guardrails will actually make things go faster because they're smoother. If people know, if your staff know what they're allowed to do and what they're allowed to use AI for, what tools they're allowed to use and how they're allowed to use it, then you're going to find that they will use it and they will get those productivity boosts. I watch all of the new research coming out of all of the big consulting firms, and the one statistic that always seems to be really sort of constant throughout all of it is that AI has the potential to give everybody 30% of their time back. Now, that's a significant amount of time in a work day, especially if you add that up across all of your employees and all of your different groups and things like that every day of the week for a year. Suddenly it's a huge saving. Now, but people won't if they don't think that they can. Or they're going to do the worst. Really, the worst thing is they hide it, okay? And we don't want people hiding it. One of the things I tell people is if you wouldn't want people to know you're using AI, then maybe that's an internal indicator that you shouldn't be using AI. Okay?
Yeah.
And it is about using it in the right way. It's an augmentation tool. It's not a replacement. It is there to help you, speed you up, be a co-worker, be an assistant to you. It is almost like, and we call the general purpose AI tool the AI assistant that each company chooses. So whether that's Copilot, ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini, that's your general purpose AI assistant. You're giving everybody an assistant. But even if you were to get a human assistant, like imagine if you gave every one of your staff members an assistant, some of them would actually struggle with that delegation of work, figuring out how to build them in, and what am I supposed to give to that person? And so I encourage all organizations to do an acceptable use of AI policy as a bare minimum, not because I want you to add another policy, and you probably already have an acceptable use of IT policy in place, emails, etc., all the things that you provide your staff members with, but an acceptable use of AI policy is almost the key to unlocking that working smarter, not harder, in all of your staff. By putting that document together, just a simple one going, these are the AI tools that you can use in your job, and this is how we would like you to use them, and these are the things that you shouldn't use them for. And an example there is not putting any private health, financial, legal information up into any of the tools.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point. Like I people that I've spoken to that have really struggled to use this is, around that fear of, yes, where does this information go? But then also the fear of, well, if it's saving 30% of my time, what does that mean for my job? So,
Yeah. The thing is, we're all capacity constrained.
yeah.
And that 30% isn't going to come overnight from one tool. It's very much a journey. It's little incremental things. And we encourage Intelligence Assist when we're doing roadmaps with business owners. We're like, try to do the things that are going to boost productivity first so you can fill that capacity gain with the innovative stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. And everybody always wants to do more. We're all constrained in our time. It's not, and it isn't replacing. Okay. There's one term in AI that has emerged that I'm actually not a fan of. It's human in the loop. Okay. And keeping the human in the loop. I actually prefer the term human at the core.
Yeah.
Okay? The human has to stay at the core. It's not, it can't do what you can do. It might sound smart, but back to my people pleaser analogy earlier, it sounds smart, but it's actually not. And you're augmenting it. Like if you don't love, analyzing lots of documents, it can help you find some of those themes. If you don't like writing an email, like, wordsmithing an email, it can augment and help you with that part of it, but it can't actually figure out what to say. It can just help you with how to say it.
Yeah.
So getting comfortable with using AI tools is very important. And I think most people, once they go over that fear hump and actually start using it, they actually do start to realize that it isn't quite there yet. It's not a replacement because it's actually not me. It's just going to help me, but it's not replacing me.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And there are certain words that it loves to use that become pretty obvious.
Oh my goodness. If I have to read one more LinkedIn article that starts with in the ever-evolving digital world.
And it always finishes with, in conclusion. So, yes, I think it is interesting. I know that sometimes when I've asked it to do something, I'll say in the attached thing, and then I've forgotten to attach the thing, and it'll still come up with, well, I don't know what the thing was, but hey, here's the answer I want to give you. Is that real people pleaser, isn't it? And I'm like busy pressing that button, like stop. Like I need to start again.
I think it will, now that we're starting to see more advanced reasoning come through in the models, it'll stop itself and it will go,
say you
hey,
didn't attach the thing.
Attach something. And they're getting better all the time.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. If people have had a go maybe 12 months ago and were disappointed, try again. Because it's improving constantly and getting better all the time. So if you found that it just didn't quite hit the mark, try again.
Yeah. So finally, what would be your top tips for business owners to get started to effectively use AI in their business? What do you think is like the things you need to get started on?
So I think the first thing is to choose that general purpose AI tool. Okay. And it doesn't need to be the same tool for every person in your organization. Really think about what they're going to use it for. Because it is going to cost, regardless of which one you choose, they're all going to end up being around $500 a year extra per person. And so if your staff member is in Microsoft all the time, like in Outlook, sending emails, doing lots of Word documents, then probably Copilot is the answer for them. But if they're coding or writing articles or doing analysis, then it's possibly a ChatGPT or a Claude or something else. So figure out what is the right tool, and then do think about the controls, simple, acceptable use of AI policy. Even use the tool you choose to help you write that.
Yes.
It's a perfect example. And then don't just give it to your team members, train them on how to use it as well. Then the second thing is look inside the tools that you've already invested in. So where is your CRM or your ERP or whatever it is that's specific to your industry? Figure out what AI capabilities have already started to appear in there, and start to see, hey, what could I actually, like one of our in the early days, we were building AI agents that would monitor mailboxes to then see if an email had new details about a client and it needed to be added to the CRM, copied or forwarded in an email. We would build that outside of the CRM, but some of the CRMs are actually building that in now. So you can actually have an email assistant that automatically updates your CRM for you as long as it's copied or sent or monitoring your mailboxes. So look for that. You don't need to go and change everything. Have a look at the tooling that you've already got. And then start to think about how you can go faster with it. What are some of the things that you can add? So set the foundations up, have a look at what you've already got and unlock anything you might have there, and then think about how you'd really like to start going faster with AI.
Yeah. And I love what you said about you might actually have a general purpose. AI is a different one for each person, because that in itself is very different to how we've treated technology, isn't it? Like it's always about standardization. Everyone has the same thing. So I find that so fascinating. You're like, no.
Everybody's role is different. So you don't need to go person by person, but it's role by role.
Yes.
Figure out what work it is that person does. Another analogy I use is that each of the AI, the general purpose tools, almost have like their own personalities, their own strengths and weaknesses. And so you look to that to figure out what is the right one for each person. And, you don't necessarily give everybody the exact same equipment. So you don't need to give them all the same tool.
Yeah, that's great advice. So thank you. And look, if you'd like to get in touch with Janey and learn more about AI for your business, then you can go to intelligenceassist.com.au or connect with Janey on LinkedIn. And the links to those are in the podcast summary, because Janey and her team can help you to audit what you have, what you're doing, what you could use in future, train your team members, all the things that we've spoken about today. So if you're not sure where to start, I highly recommend that you get in touch. And if you've received value from this episode, I'd love it if you could leave a rating or review over Apple Podcasts or Spotify so someone else can also find the episodes to help with their business. Thank you so much for joining me, Janey. It's been an absolute pleasure. I always love our conversations.
Oh, me too. Thanks so much, Karen. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. And if you have any feedback, questions, or ideas for future episodes, head on over to amplifyhr.com.au or connect with me on LinkedIn and we can start a conversation.